Oh, interesting.
On the
what do you
day
mean?
that the young people occupied parliament, that was the peak. That was the epitome. That is where they needed to stop it. And once you stop it and go on the quiet and say, now we are willing to have whatever conversations you want to have.
Right.
Or we are willing to let you work. Every time Gen Z say we want to go on Mandamano, the government will always remember the last one. And the last one would have been occupation of parliament. And they will never let Gen Z go to Mandamano again. When you are a star, a football star, a rugby star, whatever star you are, learn to retire when you are at the peak. Don't wait until you can't finish a marathon.
Right.
Retire when you finished a marathon in under 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then everybody will always remember your last achievement. When Usain Bolt was about to retire, he came in third in a race. And that was devastating.
Yes.
And that race was won by Blake. If I had been Bolt, I would have retired from running at the point when I've just won the record, I am the talk of, and everybody is still yearning for me. That's when you retire. So Gen Zs should not have gone to the streets after the 25th.
Yeah. Because, okay, so technically you're telling us the strategies were too open. They were you could easily predict the next moves.
Obvious.
And then we saw a bunch of young Kenyans like in a Casmuel and all these other guys who were coming out and saying, oh, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start going where? So it was so easy for the government to counter their moves. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying, in fact, being countered is not a problem because it means your moves are making sense. That's why they're being countered. If you are making senseless moves, the government will look at you and ignore you. I think what they needed to do is after the 25th, they needed not to have gone to the streets again.
All right.
They needed to have said, we are taking him back.
Yeah.
We've shown you what we can do and we are giving you space to work.
Hold it right there. Now, I'm sure there's a bunch of Gen Zs listening, and even the ones who went to the ground, some of them even lost their friends. What's the biggest lesson they've learned till date off of that Mandamano situation?
It's very simple. I think first and foremost, let's not just call it Gen Zs. I mean, I usually say
Kenyans.
There are more millennials in that space than you can actually imagine.
Let's just say younger Kenyans.
Yeah, so the younger generation of Kenyans, it was a combination of Gen Zs and millennials. And they got a lot of support by them from Gen Xs. I saw Gen Xs who gave them drinking water and others who were even accused of giving money, but these demonstrations were not financed with money. I think the biggest lessons they have learned is that there is a sacrifice that people have paid for this nation, and their generation paid a sacrifice. We lost lives. That was unfair. That was uncalled for. It was sad. But I think the most important thing is that when you get to a point where a president dissolves cabinet because of what young people have done, then it means their voice has been heard. I was the first again, and I thank God, to go on TV severally and speak about the salaries of the first ladies. And people are asking me, why are you complaining? Then I gave them the image of a city hopper driver.
I remember.
Who drives a bus and then his wife is paid for him driving a bus. And I heard the president pronounce himself and speak about salaries of first ladies being some of the things that are being removed. So it tells you that people listen when you go out there, when you express yourself, and when you bring about your disillusionment. People listen.
All right, yeah. So what are your thoughts? Fast forward, now we're in a situation where we have this thing called a broad-based government. The president, I guess, reached out to ODM. I guess you, especially being affiliated to the opposition, are those the best brains that ODM could have come up with?
I do not think that those are good brains. Because to start with, ODM, as we speak right now, has become an amphibian. You know, a frog is the only creature that wants to live on both land and water. ODM is saying that we are in Azimio, which is purely opposition. And ODM is also saying we are in government, which is purely government. Now, that's a frog. That's an amphibian. It's an animal that wants to be in water and on land. I think it's good for them to make up their mind, whether they are giving the best brains to government or the worst. It's good for them to make up their mind. You cannot be both in opposition and in government. Let them first make up their mind on where they are and what they want to do for this country. Then Kenyans can respect them for that. Exactly. But as long as you're an amphibian, it becomes very hard for people to know how to follow you.
So is it easy to say, given that that's the situation in ODM, is it easy to say that ODM politics is now heading towards politics where it's self-interest rather than
public interest?
I mean self-interest rather than public interest?
There is no public interest here.
Oh, yes.
I wish they were saying that we are in these ministries and we have immediately come and we are saying these are the changes we want to bring in. They are coming into ministries and they are saying some of the things we rejected in the finance bill, we are looking for a way to bring them back.
Right.
So which manifesto are they bringing in? I remember ODM speaking and saying that Kenya Kwanza has no manifesto. They used to say Kenya Kwanza has a manifesto called Hatupangwingwi, and that's the end of the manifesto.
Yeah.
Now, are they going to be implementing that manifesto they call Hatupangwingwi? So I kind of feel that ODM made a huge mistake by working with this government, or by trying to be both opposition and government. It's fine to be in government, but go full-heartedly.
Yeah,
Don't be an amphibian.
Correct. Even me
Go
myself, I was so disappointed when somebody that I respect, somebody in the stature of Raila Odinga,
Yes.
giving us mixed signals. Mara Kogava, Mara Uhuru told you, Mara Ruto called you.
But let me tell you,
yeah.
let me tell you what happened to Raila Odinga, and this is something I have noted. In fact, it's good I'm saying it for the first time on SpiceFM.
Correct.
You know, Raila Odinga can be compared to a man who gave a check, a post-dated check to William Ruto, and told him, hold on to this post-dated check. I am going to Dubai. When I come back from Dubai, I will tell you on which date you are going to bank this post-dated check so that it can become money. So Raila gives Ruto a post-dated check. That post-dated check had the names of 4 ministers he thought would fit in this government. And he felt that he needed to come and reconsult and agree fully on how it's going to be done before Ruto can bank the check. I think when the plane left JKI, before it could even land in Dubai, Ruto banked the check. And so Raila gets a message on his phone.
Yeah.
Hey, your account has been,
But this
is it debited or credited?
But this post-dated check must have been given during the NADCO conversations, right?
It may not necessarily have been then. We do not know when it was given.
Yeah.
But I know for sure Raila gave a post-dated check to Ruto.
Yeah.
And President William Ruto was supposed to have deposited that post-dated check at an agreed time and an agreed date.
Yeah.
But he just went and banked the check.
Yeah.
And it cashed it. The account had money, it cashed. And Raila Amolo Odinga got to know that money has left his account when he was in Dubai. So he now has to manage that and live with it. Then do you come and tell your people like Joho and all the others do not accept? So it became very confusing for him. And that's why now you hear him all saying all sorts of things, including mentioning Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
Yeah. This looks like for me, I think it looks like a solid strategy, like a workable strategy for Ruto, in the sense that it's kind of toned down the whole Maandamano situation. I mean, hata tujaona situation. We haven't seen anything in Nyanza. It's not in Mombasa, just in Nairobi CBD. So it's working for the president. He's aligned.
But think about it. There were 2 groups of Gen Zs and millennials in this country. The Gen Zs and millennials who come to Maandamano with a phone, a flag, and mineral water, and they eat from those fancy restaurants, as Kimani Ichung'wah was saying. And then there's another group of Gen Zs and millennials who used to come and the cops had to look for masks. Not because it is, not because of the tear gas, but because of the smell of sweat from these young men and because of where they are coming from and the lives they live. And they would find water in fountains and they would shower because, I attended one of the Gen Z's Maandamanos, and the mere scent of the perfumes that you'd tell that's a 20k perfume. That's a,
for real.
Then now, the thing that William Ruto did, and I must give it up to him as a good politician in as much as I fight him this much, he knew that if the Gen Zs and the millennials who come from informal settlements, who for a long time have been the people spearheading Maandamano, if they got to a place where they joined hands with these other Gen Zs who come with iPhones to Maandamano, that would have been the end of his government. Man. So what he did is he reached out to the politicians who control those Gen Zs and millennials who come from the informal settlements, because those ones have leaders. And when he put them in his government, he made sure that he's taken care of those Gen Zs and those millennials. His target really was not these old faces that have joined government. His target was to quell and calm the Gen Zs and millennials who come from the informal settlements. And for that, I applaud him. And I have never applauded him on any show. Now what he was left with is these other Gen Zs who were giving him a headache when he asks them who is their leader, and they tell him Jacob Juma and all sorts of funny things. So those are the ones that gave him a headache. And up to date, I think he still wishes he could know who their leader is.
Yeah. And now, this 10. Go ahead.
Was it? I just get to wonder, was it more of a permanent solution to the problem or just temporary? Is it putting band-aids to a big wound?
I want you to mark this
In the
on
long
your
run.
diary. Mark this on your diary. This
Yes.
is a very short-lived marriage. And it's going to be a horrible, horrible divorce. This is a marriage that both parties know they are not happy about. I mean, and the history is there. Look at cooperation. Then there was merger. And then there was a government of national unity. And then there was, in fact, the only seemingly subtle and peaceful season was the handshake with Uhuru.
Yes.
And that's because under the Uhuru handshake, nobody left cabinet to create space for opposition. But I can tell you all the others have been messy. They've been very untidy. And words have been thrown left, right, and center. And I can tell you this is a very short-lived marriage. It's people siphoning from the pot together, and that is a lot of silence, but it's a short-lived marriage.
Yeah, I saw the president and also CS of Treasury saying, they have to go back to the drawing board and draft another finance bill, right? The reason is they need to collect revenue so that they can go about the government business.
Yeah.
So my question is, what's the problem now? Is it a revenue collection problem, or it's an expenditure problem?
I think
We're talking
first
about
and
the finance
foremost,
bill.
Kenya does not need to have a finance bill every year. And that's a big threat and worry for every investor. If I came here and I had money, and I wish I did, and I invested 2, 3, 4 billion in whatever industry, and then you hear that specific item, call it Pampers, call it tampoons, call it whatever, has had a tax increment of 25%. Do you know what that means?
What?
It means I closed down my business.
Right.
Because probably my profit margin from that item was 12%, 13%, 11%, or even 7%. But we are pushing volumes. When you think of people who make sweets, for example, they probably make very little money per sweet, but they sell a lot of sweets. So some of these taxation measures are a huge threat. The fact that Kenya does make a finance bill every year is a threat to any investor, because every June then you sit and worry, what if what I'm manufacturing is taxed by an additional 10%? I'll close down. So I think what we needed to do was to stick to the previous finance bill and then start asking ourselves, where do we have pilferage? Where are we losing public money? Where are we losing public resources? And then how do we tighten on that?
Yeah. So sometimes I wonder how the government just doesn't seem to understand that the more you tax people doesn't mean you're going to collect more revenue.
Actually,
Definitely.
even former Treasury CS just said that on his way out. He said that high taxation does not really necessarily reflect to revenue collection.
So is it a case of maybe Ruto is hell-bent, maybe somebody's calling shots, aka IMF, some of these donors?
To us, it doesn't matter who is calling the shots. What matters is you're asking me to give you money I don't have. Yeah. If a lady was not affording her sanitary towels for the month, and then you make them more expensive, what do you want her to do? She'll start using cotton wool or whatever else is available. And that is dehumanizing and degrading and disrespectful. So what you are doing is now you're making it. Let me tell you something. I would want you to go and research on petroleum imports into this country. And I had the figures. I wish I carried my diary with me. The more taxation has increased, the less the liters of fuel that people consume. In fact, people have now gotten a habit of leaving cars at home, carpooling, doing all sorts of things. I used to probably drop my kids to school. I decide they can go on a bus, and then I leave my car and I start taking the train or the bus. Kenya has actually earned less from fuel from the minute they increased taxation on fuel. So it goes to tell you that if government was learning from some of these things, you just need to reduce the amount of taxation on some of these things. And remember that money, when it's available to Kenyans, they'll spend it on something else and you'll tax that other thing.
Okay.
Yeah, in that conversation, we've had this conversation of having some of the clauses that were in the rejected finance bill this year coming back. We've had Mbadi talk about, I think, 47 of them. Is this a good look for the president? And what does this mean for the Kenyans now who are out there demonstrating in rejection to what this bill was?
I think right now, you only have one body. It can only take too much tear gas. It can only take too much beating. It can only take too much of the streets. I think let's allow them. But let us tell them very firmly, we've allowed you to continue making our lives impossible, but we will punish you at the ballot. And we will make sure that no other member of parliament will come, and instead of doing what Kenyans want, they do what they think is good for them.
Right.
So I have always told Kenyans that sometimes when you see people keeping quiet, and I usually tell people, if you are in a relationship with a husband or your wife, and especially women, and your wife is always ranting, you're coming home late, she's making noise, I saw you with Joyce, I saw you with whoever. If your wife is complaining about those other women you're having problems and you're being seen, that woman loves you. The day she will keep quiet and ignore you, anasikia mulikuwa na wanja, she doesn't care.
She's not even bothered.
And that's where Kenyans are heading.
Yeah, we're indifferent now.
Kenyans have yelled. They've thrown trans stamps. They've gone on the streets. They've done it. Now, you should be more wary. If you go to an accident scene, I was a first aider with St. John Ambulance. When I just finished high school, yes. I used to wear those black and white with some epaulets. Yeah, I was actually in Division 5. So I was a first aider. Yeah. And every time we went to an accident scene, and you'd see blood and people yelling and they are injured and it's horrible. Forget anybody who is shouting. Look for the quiet guy. He's probably not in a position to breathe so that he can shout. And sometimes by just tilting his head, you open his airway. I mean, how long can you do without oxygen? 2 minutes, you're gone. Yeah. So just by tilting a head, you save a life. When you see people who are still and quiet in a situation where things are horrible, then you need to worry more about those who are still and quiet.
That's crazy.
Than those who are yelling and shouting.
Yeah. So we shouldn't act like
government should not be happy that people are quiet. In fact, they should be more deeply worried. I was in another school. I don't want to mention. When we were in high school, and we were notoriously loud after preps.
Right.
And interestingly, when we were loud, the teachers were asleep. They didn't care. The boys are making noise. That's fine. There's a lot of noise going on and commotion. That's fine. One day we were planning a strike and we were all quiet. The school was so quiet.
That's crazy.
And the teachers just came. And they found us in the field.
That's hilarious, bro.
So that's where the country is. When we are yelling, when Fanya Mambo is making noise on TV, please don't abduct us. Just leave us. Because you know what we are saying. We are still at a place where we are careful and we care. The day we all go quiet and nobody is speaking against government, that's the day you'll know wako kwa kiwanja wanapanga mgomo.
I was listening to certain Kenyans on an X-Space conversation. Walikuwa nasema, you know what, maybe Mbadi is going to bring out something different kwa your treasury. You know what I mean? And now all these things, the way he's talking about, we probably need to review the finance bill, So does it mean whoever is as treasury, same problem? Same problem. We're not expecting much. I mean, it's probably not even Mbadi calling the shots anyway. Yeah. Is that the case? Are we sure?
I think Mbadi has found himself in a very precarious position. Because there were the people who were telling us William Samoei Ruto is bad.
Exactly.
And now they have the odious duty of telling us he's good. And his policies are good.
Yo!
I like that. And I am looking at them and wondering how they will start constructing that sentence. I think where Mbadi is seated, he's writing William Ruto is great. No. Then he's
typing and deleting.
William Ruto is better. No. William Ruto is going to become good. No. So that's where Mbadi is, and he has a huge problem. And we all can only wish him well, and we can only wish this government well. I have never wanted Kenya as a government to fail. I've always wanted them to succeed.
Me too.
I mean, I live here, and I told people when my passport expired, I did not renew it because I don't want to think I have a chance to run away. I want to always be reminded that I have a passport that is expired.
Yeah.
So I care about this country. Even when I speak, we are not going to ban this country. So I don't want them to fail. But again, I have to tell them the truth. The team they have put for themselves is a team that is failing.
It's going down. Let me ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
I've always said, if I had been told today to choose a ministry, someone asked me, what ministry would you choose, Fanya Mambo, if you are to be made minister?
If you're put in that broad-based government.
Yes. I told them, tourism. They told me stupid. I asked them why. They told me, tourism doesn't have money.
Yo!
And then I told them, why? Because look at the budgetary allocation. The biggest is education. So we have a bunch of, for the lack of better word, foolish Kenyans who only look at the cake on the table and where the biggest piece is. And they all want to be where the biggest piece is.
Yeah.
If we had a minister who focused on getting just 5 million tourists a year, each spending $10,000, by the year only one about 1.3 million, Kenya would have about 6 trillion in 1 year from tourism only. And I even have the plan on how I would bring those tourists here. And even a schedule on how they would occupy hotels. I thought through it. And if Kenya got about 6 trillion from tourism only, we don't even need to tax people. So the problem we have is nobody is coming into government with wheat to bake the cake. Nobody is coming with eggs. Nobody is coming with in fact, nobody even wants to light the fire.
So it gets
everybody is coming into government with a fork.
For sure, yeah. Those
eat
guys
the cake.
They're going to eat. And it bothers me because now are you telling us, Fanya Mambo, that this broad-based government, there is no way they're going to liberate Kenyans economically?
In fact, things are going to get worse.
Probably things are going to get worse, bro. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is this. If there'll be another audit of ministers at some point in future, somebody will say, my wealth has risen by 150 million. Then he'll be asked, what about the wealth of the ministry you led? Since I joined that ministry, is not getting enough allocations. How is it that I am employed and I am becoming rich, but my employer is becoming poorer? And I've always asked Kenyans, okay, sometimes I don't know how we look at government and how we understand government, but government should be like business. Government should be bringing returns. Government should be a place where you go in as a minister and you live it better. Do you know, I want you to think of the biggest circle, the biggest matatu circle in this country, with a fleet of matatus. Imagine it's not worth $1 billion. And there's a guy who comes who's never run any business. Even toilet ya kanjo ya kulipisha 20 bob. They've never run any business. And he tells you, I am worth 4 billion. I am worth 2.3
Very
billion.
questionable.
And we are okay. And we clap. And we make them minister. If you are worth 3 billion, why do you want to be minister and earn $1 million? What's wrong with your head?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to us, man. Like,
I told Kenyans, take $1 billion. Divide by 50 years, then divide by 365 days. You'll have 54,000 at your disposal every day. You take 54, you go, ikikata kutosha, unatupa. Tomorrow you take another 54.
Another 54.
So why are we allowing people who say they are worth 2-3 billion, which means they can spend 100,000 a day for 50 years, to become ministers?
That's ridiculous. And some of the other things that have really, really pissed me off, bro, was the other day, that guy, bro, Morara. He's called Morara.
He's called Morara.
Bro, man, the guy
Senior
worked hard. Just, auditing government projects.
Yes.
I mean, cuz, how is it that the president is constantly launching non-existent projects?
Actually, guys are now calling them tombstones because it's just saying the president is launching tombstones.
Yeah, serious amounts are allocated for these projects. I mean, nani kama Wakenya wako wanajua?
What Morara is doing is what Kenyans need. Because Kenyans, you need to paint a very, very graphic picture of them, to them of what is happening. Because there are Kenyans who are planning to vote for Ruto in 2027.
Absolutely.
If you didn't know.
Of course, a bunch, millions.
So not unless you come to their village and tell them there's a tombstone here.
Yeah.
And this tombstone took in 1.9 billion or 2 billion or 200 million. Then they start saying, wait a minute. Is this guy the guy I was planning to vote in again? So I thank him for what he's doing. I think God is using different people in different ways.
Yeah, I think so too.
And at different times to expose the rot that is in government.
Because it has been said that this is still part of the revolution.
That's why I told you.
All this strategy.
Let's say you move out of the streets. There's one day Gen Zs woke up and decided 90,000 of them, I think close to 100,000 of them, on a space on X to send emails to a certain international organization.
Yes.
And those guys got 1 million emails and their server went down and they couldn't see their official emails.
Really?
A demonstration on the phone and online might work out even being more devastating than a demonstration on the streets. So as you close out public spaces, and my MP from some MP from some place in Bere who's trying to come up with a bill, trying to control how people demonstrate, ati mnaambia mtaekwa mahali kwa classroom, mama Uhuru
na timeline.
That is fine. People will ignore the streets. In fact, you can pass it now that you have the numbers. Go pass it. But when Kenyans decide to demonstrate using emails and phones and any other methods, you'll be unable to control that. And the effect that it will come with will be like a sledgehammer, because if they do that to those international organizations they were doing, and those international organizations start calling State House, they start calling Parliament, they start calling you the people, you will open up the places that you closed yourselves.
Yeah.
So you're not dealing with a foolish generation. You are dealing with a generation that is capable of coming up with more brilliant ideas than yourselves in Parliament combined.
Yeah, they're very internet savvy, social media savvy. You know, we're more connected right now more than ever. You know, it's I'm curious because I asked Honorable Stephen Bogo the same question I'm about to ask you, just Juicy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, even that MP that you're talking about, when you look at this era of Kenyans, you know, like the younger Kenyans, even Gen X, that everybody, I mean, the society in itself, we are out here expressing ourselves, bro. Very dangerous across all platforms, X, on radio, on TV, you know, even in the bars and in the churches, So we're also debating a lot, right? Is there any benefits of letting Kenyans, you know, air their views? Why does the government seem to be so intimidated? I mean, they're using some old school tactics, Mara intimidation, abductions. As a political analyst, is there any benefit of just letting people air their views, go picket, go come up with your own new ideologies, let conversations be ongoing? I mean, why can't they look at it like that? I thought that's a sign of a progressive society.
I think this is how they need to look at it. Nobody ever came and said that they've launched a ghost project for an existing project. Nobody has gone and taken a photo of SGR and said that SGR is a ghost project. Nobody has taken a photo of the expressway, which I have used by the way on my way here. I would have gotten late from Westlands. Nobody would have said is a ghost project if it is working. I mean, government, why don't you do good things and you'll see people talk about the good things you do?
I don't know why
you
it's
do
so
bad
hard.
things, people talk about the bad things you do. I have not seen one day government come and launch ile gas ya 300 juu bado tunaingoja Wakenya wakasema ni mbaya. So it's a question of you doing the wrong thing and then wondering why people are saying that you're doing the wrong thing. And arresting everybody who is saying you're doing the wrong thing. I mean, do the right thing.
Yeah, it's as simple
do
as
it
that.
so well and Kenyans will praise you for doing the right
Correct.
thing.
It's very
I mean,
simple.
Kenyans praised Linda Mama. Linda Mama came, it changed the life of any expectant mother, especially in a low-income area who want to give birth. And you know, that kabasin, that pamper, those small things meant a lot to those women as they bring bundles of joy into this country. So I would like to submit that the problem we have is that we have a nation of leaders who want to do the wrong thing. And when you say it's the wrong thing, they think you are the problem.
Yeah. That's interesting.
2 years in government, things don't look so good for the president as it is right now. He has been quoted saying that he's not interested in a second term if he does not achieve what he ought to have achieved in the first term. Do you think the president is a one-term president?
He's saying he's not interested in 2 terms.
Yes.
But his cronies are pitching the idea of having a 7-year president.
I know, man.
So sometimes you don't listen to what people say, you look at what they do. Mandela, with all his ability, said he wanted to be a one-term president. And the South Africans thought he was insane. I mean, how do you go to jail for 24 years? And then when you become president, you say, I want to be here for 1 term. That's what I was talking about. You need to be the kind of person who sees a nation that will succeed in your absence. And a nation that will be there because you, even if you die, the nation will be there. Let us not all think of ourselves as important people without whom the nation cannot exist. I mean, the graveyards in Langata are full of people who thought they were indispensable. Hakuna mtu kama mimi, kwangu job haiwezi endelea kaa siko. You think those companies have closed down because those people are in Langata? They are dead.
Jeez.
So this country needs to have people who are that selfless.
Correct.
Who say, you know what, Kenyans, you want me to serve you for 1 term, I'll serve you for 1 term.
Yeah.
And thank you. And even be grateful for that 1 term.
Correct.
Let's not feel, and this is happening across, even with members of parliament. I mean, I come from a constituency in Nairobi where a member of parliament told us that the mandamanos were photoshopped. And now that member of parliament is unable to come to the ground and he's unable to do anything. Till date, yeah. And you know, he comes on a Tuesday to a barrier. He's told, please, today you voted yes. Don't try it again. He goes on Thursday and votes yes. So let us have leaders who listen to Kenyans. I mean, if I was elected today and Kenyans told me, we hate your leadership, I don't even think I would wait for 2027.
For real.
No. I would endear myself to them and tell them, by the way, it's okay. Hii kiti si yangu.
Does this government have that in them? Do you think they'd wake up and say, tumeshindwa? Is that a possibility?
I can't even answer that
one. You're forgetting hawajashindwa because they had not come into service delivery.
Yes.
They had come so that they would have money to give 20 million in one harambe in one weekend and wear white pants. They had come so that they would wear watches worth 17 million. They had come so that they would wear belts for 400,000 and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So when you tell those people to say wameshindwa aje na wanaiwa, they are achieving what they wanted to do. I mean, I am seeing 2024 Land Cruiser Prados on our roads.
Oh, yeah.
And not in so many other countries in Africa. So those people are achieving what they were looking for. You are the one who was thinking they had come to serve you.
Yeah, you had high expectations.
Yeah.
Yo, Fanya Mambo, as I'm speaking right now, I'm just thinking, wow, I know Kenyans are relating right now. Maybe there's somebody listening out there, kwa gym, mama kwa how, just about to have dinner. And he's like, yeah, man, I feel you, Fanya Mambo. I'm pissed. I can't wait for 2027, right? Side note, I always thought Sakaja was going to be our Obama, bro.
Oh, I thought so too. I thought
the people of Kibra, the people of Kibra had fantastic ideas about him, toy market.
Yeah.
They decided to bless him.
They thought otherwise.
Now, man. Moving forward, about a week ago, I saw something interesting. Former Kenyan Interior CS has allegedly hired a Montreal-based Canadian lobbying firm for $250,000 to garner international support. I'm talking about Fred Matiang'i. Mchapakazi, that's what they say he is.
For president 2027.
Yeah. Hata nimeona mavijana wenye nasema, you guy Matiang'i is just he's the only one who's going to sort out all these problems. Do you think Matiang'i is the one?
First and foremost, I do not think that was wise. Why are you going out there to seek for international support before you seek local support? If I was Matiang'i, first and foremost, I would have been on a Land Cruiser top and in every market and shouting the loudest against what is happening in this country. When you have ground support, then you will get international support. I mean, dance a yard before you dance abroad. Now, why are you dancing abroad before you can dance a yard? I'm friend Matiang'i. Please, skiza reggae tu kidogo. It's not bad. Just come, dance a yard. Just go here. Get the support of the people in Kenya. Get them to support you.
I mean, but he has a brand. I mean, also Kenyans vote based on name familiarity.
But Kenyans are not even aware that he's vying for president. Why do you want to tell people outside the country that you're vying for president before you tell Kenyans? First, make it known. Make yourself an option. Right now, people do not know he's an option. Right. He's not told Kenyans. He needs to come, pull out a press conference or go into a market on top of a vehicle. Na kama hataki kutumia Land Cruiser juu imetumiwa na watu wenye hapendi, atumie Mahindra ama atumie whatever, something.
But
just tell Kenyans that I'll be on the ballot in 2027. Then see how many people will come and support you.
But hypothetically speaking, assuming he had done all those things, we know Matiang'i to be he was a very no-nonsense CS. Is that the type of guy that Kenya needs?
Is the type of guy that Kenya has needed for the last 20, 30 years.
Okay.
I mean, look at Kagame. He's a dictator, but he's a benevolent one. I do not support his human rights records. I do not support his record on politics, but I support his record on the economy. I support his record on the improvement of Rwanda. I am not saying we are looking for a president who will abuse our human rights, but if we can get someone who will fix our economy and at the same time make these people live in dignity, I think that's the kind of president we need. We need a no-nonsense head of state, but not no-nonsense in terms of bundling people into Subarus and throwing them into police stations and all the sorts of things we are seeing. No, we need a no-nonsense president in terms of dealing with those people who are making the lives of Kenyans miserable.
Yeah. It's interesting you put it like that. Now, we're about to wrap up. There's this I guess thought that maybe we could have a formal coalition between ODM and UDA, right? Imagine now of course they field a candidate, obviously Ruto 2027. Is that coalition strong enough to take down a Gen Z supported candidate?
I already told you that the people aged between 18 and 40 are 16 million from a voter register of 22 million. And by the way, there is a group of Kenyans who've sat somewhere and did the mathematics that used to be done long time ago. Hey, watu wa Western, watu wa Nyanza, sijui they are now the coastal. Who told you that nonsense will work in 2027?
Really?
Oh, mutabaki ni ujinga yenye ukabila 2027.
Bana, this is Africa, Fanya Mambo. Tribe is still solid.
Let me tell
tribal
you.
narrative.
I have seen a Kenyan here who was trying to pull out a villager movement. And when Gen Zs came, they told him we are tribeless. And there was shock on his face. There is someone who thinks mimi ni kingpin wa Mombasa. Mimi ni king wa wapi? Mimi ni kingpin wa Abagusi. I am telling you that nonsense will not work in 2027. These alignments that you people are making with tribes in mind ended in 2022. And I am telling you for free, Kenyans have made up their minds. They can vote for an Ogiek.
What?
They will. As long as they are certain that person is a good person.
Fanya Mambo, I remember we had this conversation at Vibes Radio.
Yes,
and
we did.
I think you mentioned something like Kenyans vote with emotions.
Yes.
Right? And also, it's like...
now the emotions are telling them they don't want everybody at the top. And that's what I'm happy about.
Yeah.
They don't want names they know. In fact, one of the first qualifications
for
voting...
we go back to our tribal cocoons. Tunasema tunapiga kura huko Kisii.
First qualification for voting in 2027 will be someone we don't know.
Fanya Mambo, I'm thinking about this situation. I feel like part of the reason as to why we've always had this politics of tribes within the lines of Mtuwetu is because of a lot of voter apathy. Are we looking at a situation where that will totally change come year 2027?
Congratulations to President William Ruto, because for the first time, a people called middle class is going to vote. You know, middle class never used to
never vote.
People of my car.
Yes.
I changed the rims.
I changed my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, those guys, you know, those are the people who've been hit by taxation.
Hardest.
Kama kuna watu wameonja taxation, time ya William Samoei Ruto, ni middle class.
Correct. So you mean they'll come out in large
time,
numbers?
For the first time, I'll tell you, Mama Mboga will be watching
Okech Willington anasema, please kindly say the truth. Guys, Rao is the one messing Kenya ever since 1997 handshake Moi, and then 2007 he won the elections but decided to shake Kibaki's hand. 2018 Uhuru shook Uhuru's hand, and lastly now he said Ruto is a bad president, but now he said against you Ruto is a good president. Please let us open our eyes. 2027 Ruto out, but first round or anames kila kitu. Is that true? Is Rao the reason we have hii siasa mbaya?
Let me tell you. And I hear this nonsense, and I call it nonsense. I hear it in Mount Kenya. You wake up and you go and vote for William Ruto. And then your life becomes difficult. And then you start blaming Raila Odinga. Now, the guy you didn't vote for, you don't want to blame the person you voted for, the person who is the commander-in-chief, the person who has appointed cabinet, the person who is controlling, everything, including central bank. You want to wake up and blame the person that you did not vote for.
That's crazy.
For the problems that you are in today. Then you come and ask him, does Raila collect taxes? Does he spend taxes? I think before we start blaming Raila, and I don't hold brief for him, by the way, let's ask ourselves, wewe ulipigia William Samoei Ruto kura? Have you asked him questions? Have you told him he's messed the country? Have you told him anything about his leadership before you go to the guy you didn't vote for? Now you're coming, you're leaving the guy with power, you're going to make noise about a guy who does not have power. And saying this guy who does not have power is the one who's made the cost of bread high. I think Kenyans need to start slapping themselves on the head first and asking themselves, wait a minute, why am I blaming the person I did not vote for? Actually, you're blaming a person who lost an election. And you don't want to blame the one who won the election. And you don't want to ask questions to the person who won the elections. And you don't want to ask questions to the person who has the mandate and the power to change the country. You want to always blame this guy. I kept trolling Kenyans. Allow me. Elections happened in 2022. Raila goes quiet for 4 months. All the way until around January. Oh, Raila amenyamaza, ni mtu mbaya. He decides to speak in January, and early 2023 we have maandamano. Hiki kimutu kimeleta maandamano. Raila comes and says, hamutaki maandamano. Then he pulls off. Let me tell you. He withdraws. Then they say, oh, wangeendelea na hiyo maandamano. Then he decides, let's do dialogue. They go to Bomas. Oh, wanakula pesa ya Wakenya. Raila decides, okay, let's end this NADCO thing. Then he hears about AU. He says, okay, fine. I think I'm not good for your politics.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Let me go to A. Kinatuacha, anaenda inchi ingine. Then Raila says, I don't even want this AU. Hapana, nikigeugeu, anasumbua Ruto.
You're killing me, bro.
No, then Raila comes and says, let me explain to you. Raila comes and says, okay, nimekata. Let me keep quiet. So Gen Z goes on the streets and they tell him, Baba Nyamaza, don't get involved. We'll show you how it's done. Didn't they tell him that?
Correct.
Yes.
Rampage. Raila amenyamaza na vijana wanaharibu inchi. So Raila comes and speaks. He's an opportunity. He wants to gain from now. At some point, Raila even fell sick and went outside the country. Sasa kimekuwa kigonjwa. Then he goes, he recovers. Kwa nini amepona? If God forbid he had died. If God forbid he had died, amekufa ndio tusaidie kupiga Ruto. There is nothing Raila does that is good.
I know.
When he kept quiet, he was bad. When he fought, he was bad. When he did maandamano, he was bad. When he called for NADCO dialogue, he was bad.
That's crazy.
If Raila today decides, I'm never going to say a thing for 1 year, he is going to be said he's a very horrible guy.
Let me ask you a question I asked Babu, bro. This is crazy. You've opened my eyes way. But Raila, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Like,
No way.
Nah. You're going to have to let me imagine. Nah, I didn't look at it like that. I think we blame the guy for no reason.
Yeah.
When all is said and done for Raila, are Kenyans going to miss him?
They will. They will, because look at his contribution to the 2010 constitution. So do you have a rubber that can delete that? I mean, look at what he's gone through for this country. Yani him, he was born to eat tear gas on your behalf. You peleke baba zenyu pia wakule tear gas. Hata wao ni wanaitwa baba. I mean, just want someone else's father, Fidel's father, to be eating tear gas on your behalf. And then when it's time to make him president, you don't want to make him president. I have never defended Raila on anything. And even now I am not. But I kind of feel, I just like putting his situation in context. And Kenyans, please get me.
For real.
There is nothing Raila ever did that was good in the eyes of Kenyans.
I swear.
Including keeping quiet. Even when that guy falls sick, like time he had COVID.
I know,
you remember
man.
he had COVID.
Yeah, bro.
And people were wishing him dead.
Oh, my
and then
God.
he recovers. They have a problem with him recovering. And then, because you remember when fuel was 221 and Baba was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, man.
Alipewa pesa, ndio maana apigani na Ruto. Then he comes out and says no. I think this is too much on Kenyans. Punda amechoka. Kimekuja kusubua serikali ya Ruto, kinashoma biashara zetu. What will Raila ever do?
I swear.
That is good for this country.
Damn, that's deep, man.
And I have said this. I am trying to be very neutral and very balanced when I talk about him. And every time I think about it, I feel disillusioned. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. That anything you do is bad. Including sleeping. Bona kimerara, agiamuka, apigane na Ruto. You know, he has done what he could. He's 80. Let him be. In fact, me, if I was Baba, I would have a schedule of golf clubs. Unatoka hii, unaenda chill, man.
Let me ask you, by the way, now as we wrap up, because I remember you said, you want this country to succeed. We want our government to also do the right thing. Is there anything this president of ours, our dear President William Ruto, is there anything he can do at this particular moment in time to revive himself, to make Kenyans trust him once again? Because mavijana kwanza ndo walimvutia sana, right? But that relationship right now feels like it's just going downhill. Is there anything the president can do to regain the trust that Kenyans had in him?
Do you know what trust looks like? Take a glass of water, drop it down, it breaks, then take a sellotape and stitch it together. Trust is like that. Once it's broken,
wow,
you can't repair.
For real?
So the only thing he can do is look for people who are meticulous, performers. Remove these jokers from his cabinet and get the right people and just fix this nation.
I agree.
I have always told you, animals will never let the most stupid of them lead them. Even the bell, the Maasai put the bell on the cow that knows the way.
The strongest and the smartest.
Yes. Sasa animals cannot be led by the most foolish amongst them. Why do human beings allow themselves? And I tell people to take the example of the stomach. I love the stomach. Have you ever had people saying, I cannot stomach this? The stomach is not like the brain.
Then it can
No. Boss, put something bad in your stomach right now. You'll throw up. And if you don't throw up, it will come out from the other end.
Correct.
It doesn't stomach nonsense. The brain can accommodate, to accommodate. let us be like the stomach. The stomach is very honest. You give me good food, you even feel it. Hata unalala. Let us be like the stomach. Let us be very truthful with each other. Yeah, let us not stomach nonsense and bad things, and let us not stomach bad leadership.
Fanya Mambo Kinuthia, lawyer, political analyst, motivational speaker. Call him everything, bro. He's your brother. You know what I mean? The guy who's chanoing us out here. Good stuff, bro. Asante sana.
That
sweater looks fresh, huh?
Yeah.
When you're a piri. Summer.
Let me tell you one thing.
What's up?
There are times I have gone to studio in a court like a suit, and people tell me that's not you, Fanya Mambo.
Oh, for real?
Si tunakujua na kasweta na tie.
Nice.
And I have come to accept this, and this is how I feel happiest. And I think
you feel
because
free,
one day,
sure,
because one day Kenyans will make me their president.
Yeah.
This is how I'll be coming for Madaraka Day. You know, the president who wears a sweater and tie.
That would be dope.
That would be me.
You won't do counters?
Huh?
You won't do counters?
No, me, I was born for this. I'm not a counter guy.
So basically telling us one day, we could end up seeing you.
No, I was born for the presidency.
I can tell.
It's just God's timing.
Maybe I can tell you're very passionate. But, just like these younger, they say our parliament is the youngest. But then again, people say it's the trashiest, man. I say I'm to let down. I just hope one day when you get into parliament, bro, you're not going to change.
No,
man.
let me tell you, there were good young people, and then there were trashy young people. People voted for the trashy ones, and then they're having a problem with them. I mean, there was a time when there was a choice between Jesus and Barabbas, and people chose Barabbas. People keep telling you, you can't. I mean, I lost an election in 2022. People kept telling, you can't win an election. I told them, is there a time, will there ever come a time when we shall discuss the voter?
Right.
Because the candidate might be the good one, but they are also voters. And I gave the simplest analogy as we finish of a forest that had elections. And then the number of monkeys voting were more than the number of lions.
Jeez.
And so a monkey offered itself and a lion offered itself. And then, of course, the monkeys voted for one that looked like because they look behind, they see that part that is red. And they say, we are voting for one of our own. And then they start laughing at the lion, saying, you cannot be elected. Look at you. But of course, the voters, the bulk of them were idiots. They were apes.
Oh, no.
And the apes were voting for one of their own, so they wouldn't have voted for a lion.
But I feel like tumechanuka sahi.
So right now, I'm telling people, if you see an election and you see there's a lion in the park, even if you're a monkey, just vote for the lion.
Correct.
Yeah. Even if you're a chimpanzee or you're a squirrel, and you see there's a lion in the park and it can provide good leadership, please vote for the lion. I like
how you said it. Do the right thing.
Yes, do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Fanya Mambo Kinuthia, right there. Right now, it's at the top of the hour. Some UB40. I want to take it back to, those days for Vibes Radio. I used to love my UB40.
Like Uhuru.
Yeah,
Uhuru loves UB40.
Good evening, guys. We'll be back in a bit. Don't move,
The latest talk and greatest memories on SpiceFM.
You got a smile so bright. You know you could have been a candle.